I thought we had an agreement to discuss this after the Economic Development Committee meeting. We all agreed it was the item was tabled to after the Economic Development Committee meeting, and I thought we had consensus on that, and evidently we didn't, and evidently there are 3 commissioners that think that we just take junkets. We go in junkets and party trips, and it's not economic development, and everybody wants a pot of money to be able to travel on and waste our economic development fund instead of keep our powder dry until we have a big opportunity. And so I fear for the economic development fund and where it's going to go. I've been nothing but transparent. Every item that's been on that we've spent through economic development has been proved at a publicly held meeting and approved by the commission. So I don't understand half of what's being said because it's not true.
You know, this was contentious last commission meeting. It got put on. The 2 commissioners were not here. I voted no, don't put it on, but it got passed. And then at the commission meeting, we did intervene to say, look, carry it over and not go forward with it at that time, so that everybody would have a chance to back up and take a look at this initial resolution. In the meantime, I did write a draft resolution. I sent it out on October the 25th, say, hey, this is for everybody to consider. Please, I want your input, whatever you want to say about it, change it, alter it, you know. And so far, I haven't really gotten a whole lot other than a little bit of something like, well, something about an AO. I'm like, okay. But then this motion got carried over for today, and I thought this would be a good time to introduce a substitute as to try to work this issue about economic development. Who spends what out of the economic development fund? The economic development funds, like any other fund in the county, before expenditures are made, it should come before the commission. And that's what I attempted to do with this resolution.
The issue that I raise as it relates to the Economic Development Fund is the travel of commissioners, which is Commissioner Stevens, Commissioner Knight, and their staffs, which the remaining of us, being that I am vice chair of economic development, there was earlier this year a conference in which my office budget paid for because no one had informed me that we had access to that fund for that purpose. It was then at that point that I began to question who has access to economic development funds as it relates to travel, conventions, conferences, even classes associated with improving your staff's ability to function in economic development. Had no idea that that fund could be used for that purpose. And it was only at that time, back in May of 2019, that I began to question who has access to the Economic Development Fund. How do you go about allowing not only commissioners beyond Commissioner Ammons, but to also allow our staffs to have accessibility to these conventions and that they can be paid for if they are economic development related. It also came up as relates to the budget that Commissioner Tyson and myself were allegedly needing to stay within our budgets. And that's the other reason why I wanted to know, so how is one commissioner able to have excess funds that maybe we don't have? And so then that led me to, oh, okay, because they're not having to pay for travel like we are. Okay, meaning that if it's economic development, then we have been paying, as in Commissioners Tyson, Knight, and myself, we have been paying for it out of our own office budget. So therefore, it would allow Commissioners Stevens and Ammons to be able to have funds in their account that we didn't have because they have access to another fund, which is the Economic Development Fund, that we didn't have.
It's going to limit our opportunities. We can't sit back and wait for opportunities to come to us. a lot of times we have to go to those opportunities, and that may mean going to a conference or going to something that may be educational, or going and visiting with a site selector or a OEM or tier 1, tier 2 supplier. As it's been said, as it's been put in that resolution, now we don't have the opportunity to do that because our individual office budgets are limited on travel. And the responsibility for economic development is to go and travel to see those folks and to be able to go to those conferences. So you build relationships. It's like anything in sales. You have to go out and be in front of people to make sure that you're building those relationships to sell them. So it's a little bit of both. We're not going to be able to travel, and I don't do that willy-nilly. And if everybody wants to travel off of that and we make up what economic development is and it's kind of willy-nilly again, then who knows? It could deplete the fund. Yeah.
If you're going to go on an economic development trip, then put it before the commission and say, hey, this is economic development. Can we pay for it out of the economic development fund? Yay or nay. We'll vote on it, yay or nay. But I don't think the Economic Development Fund is a fund specifically for one commissioner's office to do as they please when they please without it coming before the commission, no.
Today opened up the books so that transparency could prevail, so that anything that is non-confidential, which since I've been here, we haven't had one project that was confidential in nature or travel that was confidential in nature that would not allow, for example, Commissioner Ammons had gone to Airbus in Paris. I didn't know as pro tem and the vice chair of that committee that he was gone on this trip, which Airbus, of course, is dealing with businesses and developers across the waters. And the governor was there, and there were other officials that were there. I knew nothing about it. All I knew was Commissioner Ammons was gone. I later learned that it was Paris. I later learned why. And to this day, there has not been one report that has been given to let us know what came out of that trip at all.
An understanding of, look, if it comes out of economic development, if you're going to a conference, there's no confidentiality in that. That's a conference. You go to it, you bring it before the commission, and you're going to get it approved 9 times out of 10. You know, these companies, these site selectors, a lot of times they don't come here to select you, they come here to eliminate you. So you want to have your best foot forward, and you don't want it and they don't want it leaked out all over the place that, hey, we're in town looking at Birmingham or Jefferson County. So it's just the nature of the beast of that action. I understand that. I tried to write something into that resolution to protect us in those circumstances that you'll still be able to meet with them confidentially.